This is a story that happened many years ago in the Kingdom of Ulster in Ireland. In this kingdom, there lived this king who was, let's say, the greatest king that land had ever known. The king had shown himself to be powerful enough to lead his people to battle, wise enough to deal with every issue which they could come across in their normal life. And still he had shown himself to be a father to his two sons. For the king had two very different sons. The first son, Liam, was built like his father. You could actually say he was a chip of the old block. Liam was strong physically, but not only that, he was a warrior like his father. Liam was very good with the spear. Actually, in the whole land, he was known to be the best spearsman they had. It was actually said that there was once which he speared a man 1 kilometer out, standing there. Yes, that is what was said of Liam. Patrick, on the other hand, the younger son, where Liam was strong, Patrick was weaker, if I may use that word. Where Liam was the warrior, Patrick was the stay-at-home one who did not want to go into battle. Where Liam would pick up the spear to spear a man from far out, Patrick would stay at home and take up his fiddle, for that was Patrick's strength. Patrick could play the fiddle like no other person in the world. Actually, when Patrick picks up his fiddle, people gather around wherever they are just to hear him play and sing. Especially his father, because once Patrick picks up his fiddle, he wants to praise how good a father he has. He praises him and he says, "Oh, my father, what a great king you are. Oh, my father, how wonderful you are at battle. Oh, my father, what a great king you are." This was how different these boys were. As different as light and darkness. The king loved them all. One day, the king decides it is time for him to leave the throne. He had been getting older, and he started to tell himself, well, I can no longer take my people into battle. I can no longer lead them as I used to. So he calls the elders of the land together and he tells them, it is time for me to relinquish the throne. The elders, they were sad at losing the greatest king they ever had. But they also understood the wisdom of the king that makes him to say, it is time for me to let go. So the elders say, well, Your Majesty, we have to accept what you're saying. We don't like it, but we understand it. The king says, I appreciate that. And he tells them his choice to be the next king will be Patrick instead of Liam. The elders were stunned. They said, but Your Majesty, Liam is the older son. The king says, yes, I'm aware of that, but Patrick will be the new king of Ulster. The elders were, so most of them were still lost at words. And one of them raises his voice and says, but Your Majesty, this is against the culture of our land. This is against our tradition. This has never happened. How can you even think of such a thing? The king gets angry at that and says, what? How dare you challenge me? I have said, and what I say is final. What do you mean, the culture of the land? I am the king, and what I say goes. And I have said, Patrick will be the new king of this land. With that, he asks them to leave. At that moment, he was very angry that they dared to speak back to him. The elders, all of them, one by one, in stern silence, they start to walk home. As they were walking home, they were hoping that the king would have a change of heart to realize that no, this is not something which they should ever consider doing. that the king, yes, he is the king, but the land, the traditions, the culture, the custom dictates that Liam should be the next king. The next day, for the king had said it would be immediately, they waited, they listened to see if there would be an announcement. There was nothing. Second day, nothing. And they started to tell themselves, the king has had a change of heart. However, about a week later, the king calls for the whole land, gathers everybody together, that he has an announcement to make. He informs them that it is time for them to meet their new king. And he makes it a big feast, which people gathered from far and wide just to see and to celebrate their new king. Because, of course, since it was a feast of the king, there was so much to eat. There was music playing everywhere. Unfortunately, Patrick was not playing. But with all the music, you could see that the people, a part of them was sad at the loss of their king, but the other part was enjoying the festivities. As they were still there celebrating, enjoying, the king stands up. For the culture of the land also dictates that the new king will be placed on the royal horse. The royal horse will be adorned with the best of purples of the king. And all the jewelry of the king will adorn the horse. Then the current king or the kingmaker will lead the new king and place him on the horse, declaring, "Here is the king." So the king walks up to the horse, which had already been adorned. If you should see how beautiful it was within its purple garb. There were chains around its neck, the horse. And as the king walks towards it, the people are looking, waiting, and already in their mind celebrating Liam. For they could see the two sons dressed also. And Liam was standing there, of course, dressed as a warrior holding his spear. Of course, he could rarely see him without it. And the king walks up to the horse, leads the horse towards his sons, and stops just a few steps from them. Liam looks up at his father with a smile, walks towards his father, and the father stretches his hand to Patrick. He holds Patrick in the hand, leads him to the horse, puts him on the horse. The whole square went silent. You could have heard the pin drop. For indeed, everybody was amazed at what was happening. They could not believe their eyes. Even the birds that were flying in the air must have noticed it, because they all went hush. Are we seeing? Are our eyes still working? Are we seeing the right things? The king declares, "Behold, your new king, King Patrick of Ulster." Liam was hurt. He was confused. He was hurt. He was sad. He was dumbfounded. You name it. Liam looked at him, looked at his brother, looked at the elders, looked at everybody. He was at a loss of words. He turns, walks off in shame. And as he was walking off, he goes to the corner of the forest, sits on the floor, picks up his flute. It was a flute which he made from the bone of one of his opponents. He picks up that flute and he starts to blow a very sad tune. As Liam is blowing this sad tune, you could just see the whole sadness draped over his face. And as his face was falling in pain, the clouds start to gather. In the middle of the day, it darkens over the whole land, and you could not even see your hand anymore. As it was growing darker and darker as he was blowing, in pain. At a certain moment, you start to hear the growl of thunder at the distance, rumbling, rumbling, rumbling as it's coming closer. And Liam just continues. And then, through all this, you just heard the crack of lightning striking the feet near Patrick, not even on Patrick. And immediately Patrick falls off the horse, dead. Everybody starts to weep. The king, surprised, and he has no words. He falls on his feet and on his knees, and he starts to cry at the loss of his son, at a lack of understanding of what was happening. And as he's crying, the elders joined him, everybody trying to resuscitate Patrick. But to no avail. Patrick was gone. Liam, of course, was also gone. The king all of a sudden had nothing. And as he was weeping, the elders advised him, maybe we should consult one of the druids and ask them what is going on. So they go forth and they consulted with the druids, and they said, well, it is the pain of Liam blowing that flute. That is the cause of all this. The king finally sees the error of his ways, and he calls his emissaries and sends them off. Please go and get my son, Liam. And they come to Liam, and Liam says, no, I can't. How can I go back there? This is the worst that could ever happen to me. I have been embarrassed. I have given my all in battle for this land, and now this is what I get. I cannot go back there. He continues with his flute. The emissaries return to the king and say, unfortunately, Liam has said he's not coming back. The king goes himself to plead with his son. And as he comes there, he falls on his knees in front of his son. And he says, my son, I have sinned against you. I have hurt you in ways that I could never explain. He begs and begs, and he starts to shed tears in front of Liam. Liam takes his eyes off his flute and looks at the king, looks at his father, and his heart melts. He looks at his father and he shakes his head and he says, I look and I see. It was a mistake. He smiles, and as he smiles and he holds his father, pulls him up, picks up his flute, and he starts to change the tune. As he's changing the tune and changing the tune, you could slowly see the clouds start to go back, drift. And as they are drifting, a ray of light breaks through the cloud and shines upon Patrick, who wakes up, opens his eyes as the family came back together. The king looks at his sons, and he looks at Patrick, looks at Liam, and he says, Liam, indeed now I see that not only are you a warrior, but you also have a heart of gold. He leads Liam by the hand, puts him on the horse, and declares, behold, King Liam, ruler of Ulster. Patrick looks at his elder brother, smiles, picks up his fiddle and starts. Oh, my brother, what a king you are. Oh, my brother, what a king you are. Not only are you a warrior king, but you are also a sympathetic king. Oh, my brother, what a king you are. Liam sits on the horse, he looks at the land, and he realizes that not only will he lead his people in battle, but he will also lead them with empathy. And many a year, Liam led the people of Ulster to even greater and greater